Welcome back. Today we will understand the Azure data replication concept, or we can also call it as a Azure data redundancy options. So this is one of the important topics to understand when you are like learning Azure, or if you want to go for Azure certifications with respect to the data engineering, like DP 201, 202, 203 kind of certifications. So this concept is really important to understand both theoretically and practically. So in this video, let's learn theoretically what are the different redundancy options that Azure has, and how can we use different options in different use cases. So before that, so replication and redundancy is like nothing to confuse. So both are same. So in Azure, we usually call it as a redundancy options. So it's nothing but we are replicating the data. So both are meaning the same. So let's go to the next slide where we talk about so a few important concepts before actually starting to understand things here. So when we see the slide, so before, whenever we are choosing different replication options, we will see what are the different replication options. But before that, so it's really important to understand the different replication options here, and what is the difference between them, and when to choose what, based on the business requirement, based on the cost, and other things. So it's very important to understand that concepts, and also it is our responsibility, meaning the users of Azure. So if you are using Azure, so it is your responsibility to make sure the proper replication is enabled for suppose if you're using a critical data and you cannot choose very minimal replication, in that case, if the data is lost, so then so it is your responsibility. It is not Microsoft responsibility because you have not chosen the replication here. So you need to understand your responsibility here in this case, and also so definitely since there are different replication options, the cost also will differ with the different replication options here. So just be aware of that. And you also should know the data. When I say you should know the data, meaning so you should know how much your data is critical. So based on that, you can choose the replication levels. If the data is really critical for you, then you can choose the highest replication. So if your data is not so critical, or you are using it for some less important or less priority tasks, so then you can go for the less replication option. So also you should know the end users. So when I say end users, the users are basically geographically distributed, right? So when you're choosing replication, you can also choose the replication with respect to the different geographical locations also. So in that case, it is also important to know in how your end users are geographically diverse, basically. So we will see like how this also will option will also matter, because there is a when you choose replication, there is a geographical geolocation also comes into picture. So hope this is clear, and let's move to the next slide where we see the actual high level replication option in Azure. So at a high level, it is categorized into three. If you see here, three categories. One is a very basic one, which is a primary region. So primary region means it will be having only one region. Data will be in only one region. So that is called a primary region. And we have two options here: local redundant and zone redundant. And the second option is when we have a secondary, we replicate the data into secondary region. So here again we have two options: geo redundant storage and geo zone redundant storage. And the third option, what we talk about is very similar to the option B, second option, but it is having the read-only option here. So that's the only difference. So let's go to the go to the next slide and understand each one by one in detail. But I hope this is clear. So at a high level, we have three options, and here each is having two options here. So just keep this in mind at this point. So total there are six options. Okay, with that we will start understanding in detail all of the six options what we have for the replication. So if you see here, we are seeing multiple things in this slide. One is region. So region is nothing but it is a geographical location. So it is a place, physical place in any country. So here it might be one data center of Microsoft, which is located in East US. So that we call it as a region A. So Microsoft is having different data center in different countries, many data center in different countries, and in a particular country also it might have different data centers. So this region is nothing but that is what we're calling like a data center, right? So and each data center basically can have different availability zones. That means each availability zones will have different infrastructure, different networking systems, security systems, and different. They are physically separated, basically, right? So why actually they are physically separated? Each availability zone, why they are physically separated? So the reason is, so if the availability zone one get failed, so we have other options. So before going to the availability zones, so let's first understand local redundant system, that is LRS. That means uh, in the availability zone there will be different racks. Racks in the sense the compartments. Basically, this is one compartment, this is another compartment, right? So if the data is your data is stored here, okay, if the data is stored here in this compartment or in this rack, right? And if this rack, there is a failure in this rack, okay, then your data will also be lost. So in this case, the data is replicated to the other racks basically. So in that case, even though if there is a failure of this rack, the data is still available in these two racks, and we are still good, right? And so this is what we call it as a local. When you say local, it is local in the availability zone. So this happens inside the availability zone. So that's what we are calling here data replicated within the availability zone. The replication happens within the availability zone, and it handles basically a rack level failures. Here the failure is at a rack level, right? So next, let us move for the next one. So which we are talking about zone redundant system storage. So here what happens is like as we are mentioning, our data is stored here, okay, but the complete it is replicated also at different racks, okay. But what if the complete availability zone itself goes down? So then, so we will lose our data. So in that case, we should actually have an option enabled to have the zone redundant system. Zone redundant system storage is nothing but, so we are replicating across the different zones. So that's what we call it as a zone. So here it is a zone, right? Because it's in a different zone. Data is being moved to different zone here. So that's why we'll call it a zone redundant system here. So here what we call is data replicated across different availability zone, and it is basically to handle region level failures. So this is a region level failure, right? The previous, if you see, it is a rack level failure. So this is inside the rack. So that is happened. So here it is across our different availability zones. So hope these two options are clear, like local LRS and ZRS, which are basically the first option. What we have covered the first option here, right? And let's move to the next option, which is redundancy in secondary region. So there are two options again. That is, so what is like when we are talking two regions, right? We have two regions here. So what does that mean? Suppose we might have one data center in East US and other data center in West US. So basically, this is our primary region, and this is our secondary region. So primary region is, I mean, we choose the region actually. Here, primary region is chosen by us where the data want to go and land. But secondary region is chosen by Microsoft itself. We don't have option to choose a secondary region. So this will be chosen by pair. Actually, for each region there is a pairing region. For East US, the pairing region is West US. Similarly, each region, whatever you choose, it is having a pairing region. So based on that criteria, it automatically chooses, right? So that's, we call it as a different regions. So these two are a pairing region, region A and region B. So and these are like geographically separated, and usually they are within the country. If you see here, it's East US and West US. They are usually within the country, not like too far, because to reduce the latency, so they have kept it within the region. And so here, if you see, this is meant for like there is a two regions here. Again, there are availability zones, but this option is meant for to handle the failures of a region itself. Suppose you are having a availability zone, and also you have a one more replication which is enabled here, which is replicated at a zone level also. But even though if you have the zone level data replicated here, what if the entire region goes down? That means possible, right? Like there might be a severe earthquake or like a physical damage, disaster, some disaster happens. In that case, we still might lose the data. So then we can enable, in this case, if you have enabled geo redundancy. Geo means it is a like across the different regions, right? So when we have this replication enabled, data will be replicated to the other region itself. So we have our data safe. So we can get that data from region B. And going to the next option. So it is a geo zone redundant. It is the same option, but only the zone is different here. That means here we have the replication at a zone level also. If you see, this is different zone, different zone, different zone, and we have also option with the geo also. Both options are there. So this is for the zone level failures, availability zone level failures, and it is at this option which is replicated. The data is replicated here. It is for the geo. So this is for G, right? So that's why it is a combination. So that's why we are. It is slightly different than previous. If you see, previously we don't have that zone level. Here we have zone level also. So that's why we have geo zone redundant storage. So let's go for the next option. So now we have, I'll just come back here to the main. So now we have covered this option as well, secondary region. So the third region is very similar to the B, as I was telling. Only we have read-only option here. What is read-only? So in these A and B option, when we are choosing primary and secondary region, specifically for the secondary region, right? So when something fails, when the something fails in the primary region, so it will not basically hand it over to it will just hand it over to the secondary region. But secondary region is only used or available to the users only when there is a primary failure in the primary region. If the primary region fails, I'll come back to this option. Yeah, only when the primary region fails, the region B will be available to the user. Otherwise, region B will be in the hidden state to the users basically. So in that case, I mean, we can always we can think here. So if the region B is available, what if we can make this region B also available to the users, because it is already replicating the data. So this East US users can use this data, and West US can users can use this data. So since the data is near to those particular country users, so the latency will be very less, right? And also the load will be distributed across each regions. So we are having the advantage here. We can see the advantage here. So if you want to utilize this advantage, right? So in that case, we can have the last option. So where we are enabling a read only. So this is very similar, as I was telling, it is very similar to geo-redundant storage, only we are calling it as a read-only. That means, so region B, region A, region B, both will be active for the users. That means users can access read data from region B also, users can access data from region A also parallelly. So that is the advantage what we are having here. So in when we are choosing read access, basically read access, it is only for read again, it is not for write. Please note that it is region B is only for read. So region A will be for it's a primary, so we have both read and write option here. And the next one is again very similar. So it is a read only again, read only, but it is geo. So if you see here, I'll come back now to the first slide. So this geo redundancy and read only geo redundancy are same, and geo redundancy and read only geo zone redundancy, basically these two are same. Only option is here we are making the secondary region available for reading to the end users along with the primary region. So that's the only difference. So hope this difference is clear. So this difference is very important and it can be confusing. So just go through the recording if you have any confusion again. So basically hope you understood. So the three all these options of replications, and so hope I mean, since it is very important topic, so hope you understand it in a better way.